So did any of you see that the Tour de France and Tour de France Femme routes have been announced just a couple of weeks ago? Well, that also means the Etape du Tour routes and dates have also been announced as well. Now, I really enjoyed the Etape du Tour experience this season. Finishing just inside the top 20, it was one of my highlights from this year. And I'm planning on going back in 2026. So I thought I would take a look at the route and give you my first impressions. First of all, if you didn't already know, the Etape du Tour is probably the biggest one-day amateur cycling event in the world, attracting probably around 15,000 entries. That means we all have to set off in waves because there would be absolute carnage on the roads. It was definitely a bucket list event, and I would highly recommend the experience. People on the side of the road cheering, just the absolute challenge of it. It's a rad day out. So the Etape du Tour in 2026 is taking place on Sunday the 19th of July, and this is going to mirror the men's professional stage 20. The distance will be about 170 kilometers with a total elevation gain of 5,500 meters. But it's how we gain those meters that's going to make it a bit harder, I think, than this year's edition. Now, the key climbs on the route are actually going to be very similar to the Marmotte Gran Fondo. If you've never heard of that event, that is also one of the most premium one-day cycling events on the whole calendar. Again, for amateurs, but it is stacked with very handy bike riders. It's an incredible day out on some of the hardest climbs, and if the weather is really tough, it can be one of the hardest day outs, period, you'll ever have on a bike. So this year's Etape du Tour follows a very similar route. First of all, you take on the Col de la Croix de Fer, a very long pass from Bourg and Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne. Once you get over the top of that, you're down into a valley. This valley then takes you along to the bottom of the Col de Telegraph, where you get to the top, you descend very briefly before taking on the mighty Col de Galibier. And thankfully at the Haute Route Alps this year, I managed to get some kind of redemption on, because the last time I faced it was at the Marmotte a couple of years ago, and I cooked myself. I always compare that climb to like a treadmill because of the length, because of the scenery, but now that I've had a chance to enjoy it, I do actually really like it. Now, where the Marmotte and this stage of the Tour de France is going to differ from the Marmotte is the finale. We're not going to be doing Alpe d'Huez as much as it says that we are finishing at Alpe d'Huez. We're going to be doing a climb called the Col de Sarenne. Again, one that I've had experience on at a previous event, and one that actually, if you've never ridden it, is a really nice climb. Road surface, from what I remember, is not amazing, but it's still a picturesque climb. It's a proper alpine climb, like an old school one where it's a bit narrow and it's not as probably well known as Alpe d'Huez, that's for sure. But I think people are going to really enjoy it. And I also think it might be slightly easier than doing Alpe d'Huez itself, the traditional way, with all its hairpins and the wide open road. There's a bit more going on the Sarenne, a bit more to see, but I am slightly bummed that we're not going to be doing the proper Alpe d'Huez. So there's a quick route overview. I mean, on first impression, I was disappointed that Alpe d'Huez is not going to be properly in it as the finishing climb, but equally the route is still a big challenge. The Croix de Fer, the first climb of the day, is very irregular. It goes up in stages, so there's periods of recovery which can trip you up and take you out of your rhythm. However, if you are a fan of hitting a climb early on in these events so that it thins the group out and you find yourself in a good rhythm and in a good group early doors, then you really enjoy it. If you prefer a sort of steadier start, maybe like this year's Etape du Tour in a way, where we were on a flat road for a couple of kilometers before hitting the first climb, and the first climb wasn't exactly steep or challenging, it was quite shallow, so draft was a bonus on that climb. You won't kind of get that on the Croix de Fer. And then the Galibier and the Telegraph combination, do I really need to tell you about that? it's just survival. The sheer length of it all together, those 2 climbs, with very little recovery in between, is going to be a pivotal moment for a lot of people, just like it is at the Marmot. And the weather will, of course, have a massive impact on the day. I think the way they're finishing the stage, though, I think for the pros, it's a shame. I think there's not going to be as much fireworks as there would be if it finished on Alpe d'Huez from the traditional ascent. But saying that, for the fans of the sport and for us, a cyclist taking on a challenge at the Etape du Tour, I think it'll provide enough of a challenge for a finishing climb, and one that will finish in an iconic location. And I don't think it'll be, too difficult, in a sense that it's an enjoyable way to finish going up the Sarenne, rather than if you've ever gone up Alpe d'Huez at the end of the Marmot or at the end of a big day of riding around that area, you'll know that going up Alpe d'Huez, there is no let up, and it's soul crushing. The Sarenne, in my opinion, is a nice climb to finish on. Now, the Etape du Tour, which takes place in July, is a long way away at the moment, and that's a good thing, because this time of year is a really good time to start to get some thoughts together about goals or what you want to achieve at an event such as this. What I've learned over the years is it's very difficult to have a goal that is position orientated. If you want to say you want to get inside the top 500 or the top 100 or top 50, even if you achieve those in this year's Etape du Tour, because of the different climbs, the different length of the stage, and don't forget this is longer as well than this year's Etape du Tour, can't really control who's going to show up on the day, and if people have become fitter in the past 12 months, you can't control any of that. You can control your own fitness, of course, and your own preparation, and therefore it's easier to model and to plan a finishing time and goals for each climb, for argument's sake. Breaking down those climbs even further, seeing how you want to pace them, how to get the most out of them, where to fuel correctly, and where you can recover and possibly ride in a group. The best place to save energy on this course is going to be directly after the Galibier. That long descent and valley road all the way back down to where the Sarenne will start. It's not quite as long as it would be back to Bourg, to the base of Alpe d'Huez, but it's still a fairly long way, and it's not necessarily a freewheeling descent all the way either. So top tip from me would be to find a group or a couple of riders at the top of the Galibier, and that first couple of kilometers off the Galibier is pretty technical as well. You want to go and watch some YouTube videos of the pros coming down there in some races from the Tour, and it's mind-boggling. So don't forget to work on technical aspect as well. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts. If you're watching this, you did the Etape du Tour in 2025, let me know how you got on, how you found it, what you think of this course for this Etape du Tour. I'm interested to get a discussion going. Thank you for watching this video. If you did like it, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you next time.